Black people are not the original inhabitants of South Africa.
Hold on, Khoisan aren't black?
No.
What are they?
They're a completely separate ethnicity all on their own. In fact, if you look at them, they're kind of yellowy. They're a light brown yellow color,
right.
But they look more Asian than African. They do not consider themselves African. They do not consider themselves African.
Interesting.
Many white South Africans who fear Julius Malema. Some of them have said to me, if Malema gets to power or close to power, I will leave this country. Do you welcome their fear, or do you want to find ways to overcome their fear?
I don't welcome their fear. Stephen, they said that about Mandela, the most celebrated Mandela. You're talking about me. They said if Mandela, a prisoner, becomes the president, who will live in this country, and they left. I was in the Vaal River the other day, looking at some of the houses that whites abandoned in 1994 when Mandela became a president. They are not scared of Julius Malema. They are scared of an independent black man who's not controlled by any white person, who's not controlled by London.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right. So guys, in today's episode, you're going to be reacting to a palm-colored man who talks about how black people in South Africa are not the original inhabitants of South Africa. And guys, this is what I normally say. If you don't know your history, or if you let another person tell your history, they're gonna tell it how they want. And you know the dangerous thing about this is not the first episode we're covering about this.
Because this is a completely different palm-colored person saying this kind of rubbish. And you know, if they keep preaching it long enough, even I have started believing it, but I know my truth. These people are masterminds of divide and conquer.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to know from South Africans, of course, the melanated ones, how do you feel when such statements are made from people who are supposed to be part of the rainbow nation in South Africa? I'll leave you to answer that on the comment section. Meanwhile, let's watch this video and then we come back with our commentaries.
Black people are not the original inhabitants of South Africa, which, in fact, they're realizing that now. When they claimed that they owned all the land, the original inhabitants, of who there are not many left, said, excuse me, we were the original inhabitants, you guys were migrants here as well, which they were. Okay, the original inhabitants of Southern Africa are called the Khoisan. In the West, the Bushmen are Khoisan. Hottentots are Khoisan. But you can't use those words anymore. You now have to call them Khoisan. Okay?
Black South Africans are not the original inhabitants of South Africa. Just what this guy is just saying right there. And, you know, South Africans, you know, I see so many of them coming on my page and then attacking me concerning the Nigerian issue. Instead of spending your energy talking to this guy or attacking this guy, you're spending your time on the Nigerian guy again. You hear that black South Africans are not the original inhabitants of South Africa.
All right, now, and they were the inhabitants of the whole of Southern Africa. So the whole of South Africa, at one stage, were Khoisan. The black people originated in what is now Cameroon. That's where they...
Hold on, Khoisan aren't black?
No.
What are they?
They're a completely separate ethnicity all on their own. In fact, if you look at them, they're kind of yellowy. They're a light brown yellow color, but they look more Asian than African. They do not consider themselves African.
Interesting.
Here we go again. The white man has come to implore his whole system of divide and rule again. The Khoisans are not black people. The Khoisans are not Africans. But you forget that we have, if you trace the lineage of the Khoisan, you can trace it back to the Congo region, to the pygmies also. They are also somehow connected to the men. How do you call these people with that divide and rule idea? If they are stuck in any angle, they employ that same system that's always worked for them. Africa, we have people of all shades and color. We have people with all kind of futures in Africa. If you go back, if you go into Africa, if you go to any part of Africa, you will find fair people, you find yellow people, you will find black people, you find all colors. In short, the world evolved out of, every human being evolved out of Africa. What's going on here? The same divide and rule. Open your eyes. South Africans, this is what you should be looking at. They've come again with the same tactics.
When the white guys arrive in Cape Town, so 1652 is when Dutch guys arrived there. At that stage, you could have divided South Africa almost exactly 50-50, what's now South Africa. The western half of the country was entirely Khoisan. There were no black people there. None at all. Only Khoisan. So we're Cape Towners, all that area, Khoisan people. The northern part of the country did have black people. They'd started arriving, and they were still migrating.
How long have they been there in the northern?
Well, it's a moot point, and people have debated it. It would seem that black people had probably started arriving in the northern parts of South Africa maybe 1,000 years, something like that, about 1,000 years before whites got there, right up in the north, okay? And they've been slowly moving south because it's an empty space. I mean, one of the things about Africa is it's very empty. Up until the 1950s, Africa was very empty. It's the population exploded because white colonists, the naughty white colonists, put hospitals there, and there's been this huge population explosion since the 1950s. But Africa was really very empty up until then. And so tribes moved around and just occupied new empty territory.
The thing that Africans did not have a way of attending to themselves medically before there. We have doctors, we have people performing all kinds of surgery in Africa. They have insertions whereby they operate the women and bring out babies. They have been doing all kinds of medical treatments. In short, medicine started in Africa. What are you talking about? This guy is crazy. They come up with all these kind of stories and trying to find way to, they weave and trying to find way to corner the stories and project themselves into people's fear. Why is it that wherever these people migrate to, they want to claim the land and they start all sorts of trouble? I don't understand. Now, Africans, we are not populating before the white men. And he has forgotten that Africans migrated from Africa to all over the world and populated the world. Africans traveled all over the world and populated the world. So what is it talking about? That we don't have cures. Africans weren't populating until the white man comes and planted a hospital in Africa. This is total madness.
So the guys coming down from the north, who called the Bantu, it's called the Bantu expansions, when black people came out of the Cameroons, they'd been occupying South Africa and moving systematically south, down the east coast.
They were
of South
pastoralists, am I right?
Yeah. They were pastoralists, yeah. Whereas the Khoisan were hunter-gatherers. They were like aboriginals, okay? So they hadn't become pastoralists yet. The black guys are migrating down from the north and settling, doing exactly what white guys are doing. So white guys, the Dutch guys from Cape Town, were settling by moving eastwards. So the white guys are moving from Cape Town eastwards, and the black guys are moving down from the north, and they met at a place called the Fish River, which is now in the middle of South Africa, at a place called, it's still called border. Everybody in South Africa calls that part of the country the border, even though there's no border there at all anymore. But there was a river called the Fish River, which is where blacks and whites first encountered each other. And then it started 100 years of warfare between whites and the Xhosa, who were the tribe that they met there. So at that point, that would have been in about 1700. So whites and blacks first encountered each other in 1700. Okay? So whites had already been there for 100 years at that point.
Once again, South Africans, Nigerians and other African brothers are not your problem. Your problem lives with you there, and this is your problem. And they are trying to discredit you or remove you from that land. And they are still occupying your land, occupying your economy. But instead of facing your problem, you turn your attention to other African brothers who are just there. Who tells you, in a situation whereby people are together, they're never going to be crimes. Yes, there are going to be some bad people, and there are going to be some good people. But don't focus your energy all on Nigerians and other African countries. Your problem are these people that are trying to take care of life, who have been oppressing you, who are hell-bent on oppressing you guys, and they're still oppressing you guys. But instead, you come on my comment section trying to attack me for pointing out what you are doing to other Africans and Nigerians. And I see this, you keep tagging me, I don't care, but I'm going to keep speaking the truth.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about that in the comment section. South Africans, I'd like to know what you think about this on the comment section.
Yeah, another point, guys, I don't know how many of you saw our video of, we once did a video of how it's called How Colonial Kids Grew Up in Colonial Era and How They Thought During Colonial Era, the most volatile era in Africa. And then also, when you see the data that we've given you, and this I'm sure
we'll place it on the screen for you, just look at it.
This I'm 100% sure is history recorded by a palm-colored person, the one that says when the Dutch, Zulu and other black people arrived in South Africa. In this data, this palm-colored person who wrote this data, I'm sure it's palm-colored person, he places the Dutch as the first settlers in South Africa, and then places the melanated people.
The Dutch settlers in South Africa, and according to this, it says that they arrived in the 1600s, meaning that there was white majority settlers in South Africa.
Yeah, and then majority black settlers, he says they arrived there in the 1800s. 17
and 1800s
after the palm-colored people were there.
So
guys,
if you look at the Zulu, they say Zulu arrived in the 1700s. English arrived in South Africa in the 1700s. They say Songa arrived in South Africa in 1800s. Then the Xhosa arrived in South Africa in 1800s. Siswati arrived in 1800s, and Tswana arrived in 1800s. Guys, let's come back. So where are the Khoi people, and when did they arrive? Because I feel like this is selective history they are choosing to teach. Where is the San people? And then coming back to that question, and this palm-colored person is saying that he's trying to claim right now that the Khoi people are not even Africans. They're not black.
They're not black and they're not Africans.
So you know what baffles me is that who is a palm-colored person to define who is black and who isn't? Because when it's beneficial to them and when it fits their narrative,
to divide groups, especially if they have interest in what the groups represent. And as the Nigerian brother said, you know, palm-colored people, they come in one boring monochrome color, but black people come in a variety of colors. There are different types of black.
Yeah, and now this is just the new one I've heard. To be honest, I've never heard this, that the San people are not black and they're not African. It's what he basically is saying. And when you go to America, Maureen, black people, it does not matter if you're white passing, so long as you have a specific feature that suggests exactly your bloodline has a black person in it, you're gonna be classified as black. Why? Because it fits their narratives.
But when they come to South Africa, they want to classify people like the San people as not being black. So what are they if they are not black? Okay, we are all Africans in general, and Africa does not understand the concept of color. I get that, but he is purposefully dividing the people who settled in South Africa first. And guys, you remember this is the same thing Columbus did in America. Thanks to his journal, people know he found also black people in America before he gloriously claimed to have discovered America. I feel like these are the same Dutch settlers who've grown up being taught this kind of rubbish, that they believe that South Africa belongs to
you know. Anyway, even if you look at the kind of, let's just go with his theory, right? That there's a picture here I want to place for you on the screens, just a minute. So if you could just take a look at that picture I've placed for you on the screens, right? According to this picture, okay, and you have to analyze, you have to be a little doubtful. Just know that there's somebody who wrote your history and they didn't include everything, okay? So if you look at this picture,
where I also even blame Africans. No, I don't actually blame Africans, because Africans had a different way of preserving their history. And the main point of them recording history was through word of mouth and storytelling. Them, they didn't.
And when you say storytelling, you can also go back to blaming Africans, because it got to a point where that storytelling and passing down history, it wasn't distorted, it was stopped completely.
And why stopped this? Why did they stop this? Because they knew that they had the power first through colonialism, you know, and they had the power to pass legislations in particular countries they colonized, in what system of education to go through and what to teach in these schools.
So guys, look at that image I've posted for you, right? They're saying that this one, they're trying to show where the Khoisan came from, and they're showing also where the Bantus came from and how they spread in South Africa. Can you look at the arrow where Europeans came came from. Where is it coming from?
There's an ocean. From the ocean.
There's an ocean between South Africa and wherever they are coming from. Yeah. So why did they feel the need to cross a whole entire? What did they miss in their continent for them to come to another continent and settle there and claim that land to a point where right now they're claiming that they were the first settlers? If you remove the sons, they were the first settlers in South Africa.
And why do they want to remove these very same sons? Anyway, in their continent, you know already, most of them were starving and they didn't even know how to get rid of their fecal matter that was giving them diseases over there. So they were looking for new land to conquer and to get food from.
Coming back to modern day South Africa, guys, I feel like I'm really, if right now, God forbid, colonization were to take place, the first place that I feel like
they would attack,
the corridors that they're going to use to get the whole of Africa, that would be South Africa
through the Cape Town,
through the Western Cape.
And we're also going to do an episode about this.
Another place I feel like these people are really taking a hold of is Kenya,
through the Adani Group deal, where they want to take hold of our national, actually our biggest airport in Kenya.
And it was rumored, not confirmed, I don't know how true that is, but it was rumored that
once they take control of this airport for 30 years to come, Kenya is not allowed to build another airport.
No, that is not a rumor, but it's a fact.
Yeah, they're not allowed to build or refurbish or renovate any other existing airport.
Adani has to finish his work with that airport for 30 years without Kenya having to build a new one or refurbishing an existing one. So meaning they want to run down whatever system that Kenya has
built for 30 years. They're going to work on Kenya, and whatever he will be importing through that, only God knows. Some people have speculated he wants to import a lot of Indians. Others have speculated he wants to import not only Indians but other white settlers.
And then it's also what I was saying about the rumors. It has been rumored that once he takes control of the JKIA airport, he's also going to find himself a deal to get hold of the port region
in Mombasa.
Part. So I'm asking myself, guys, what is the future of Africa?
The black Africans.
Our leaders keep opening the doors to all these foreigners who you know very well does not have the interest of black people at heart. This is the only continent that has majority black people, and you look
and the only continent where, for the most part, if you compare the black population to any other population, meaning white, Asian, or whatever, black people, most black people own businesses and have a say of what's happening in the economy until the government comes in to say, we are bringing this foreigner to have a say in this specific industry.
So guys, as we leave you to ponder around with what we've just discussed, let's just think about how Africa right now is changing and the kind of history, the kind of dangerous information that is being passed out there, because it starts like this, and then very soon, because you're raising a generation where they truly believe,
especially the palm-colored people who are in Africa,
they're entitled to that continent or that country, and why. That is how America is turned into what it is today, you know.
Right, you think that the white settlers there were once the true original settlers in America, and that the black people are only but squatters in that land,
who are brought over. Anyway guys, we'll leave it at that. Let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here. South Africans, we'd also, a lot of you are in the house, we'd also like to hear from you personally. How do you feel about this information? And they're not exactly hiding it. If you look for it, you'll find it out there.
And just let us know in the comment section, how are you taught your history as black South Africans? Do you really know who the land belongs to?
I know they do.
But I just want to hear it on the comments section, because now the white South Africans are confusing the hell out of all of us. They're working so hard to confuse the hell out of everybody.
Confuse history.
They're working so hard to confuse history.
So guys, we'll catch you later. Thank you so much for joining our episode.